Before We Were Free, Chapter 10, Freedom Cry, pages 150 to 151. But even as I entertain these far-fetched possibilities, I know that I'm just trying not to think of the obvious reason Mr. Washburn would be here. A reason more terrible and horrible than any angry store manager or policeman coming to report me for getting into trouble. On the couch where Mundine sleeps at night sit Mammy and Lucinda holding onto each other. My grandfather is leaning forward on the recliner, listening to something Mr. Washburn is saying. Another man is in the military uniform with his back to me, is standing behind Mr. Washburn's chair. In the other room, I heard my grandmother crying. She had to go lay down. Mundine's place. She had to take a tranquilizer pill. Why? I ask. My heart is tottering on the edge of a very high place, and I am waiting breathlessly for it to either fall down into 1,000 pieces or be rescued by good news at the last minute. Mr. Washburn stands up and folds his arms around me. When he lets go, I follow Mundine to a place on the couch beside Papito's recliner, my hand on the chest as I could reach in and steady my heart inside my ribs. As I go by Mommy, she looks up and starts crying. My grandfather reaches over and takes my two hands in his. We are all going to have to be very brave, he says quietly. His eyes are also red. Then he says the words I will never forget. Your father and uncle are dead. We got a report yesterday, Mr. Washburn begins explaining. The dictator's family had agreed to leave. His voice is official sounding, but everyone in a while, little clouds of sadness travel across it. Just before dawn, the sun took off for his beach state. Meanwhile, his same buddies drove over to the prison and seized the 6 remaining conspirators and took them to the beach. Mr. Washburn stops abruptly. After a moment, he adds, Lo siento, which means much more than he is sorry, but he feels what we are feeling. Tell us, Mommy orders. I want to know how they die. I want my children to hear this. I want my country to hear this. I want the United States to hear this. She sounds so absolutely sure. Mr. Washburn clears his throat and goes on. Trujillo Jr. and his cronies were quite drunk. We're not sure, but they might have also been drugged up. At any rate, they tied the prisoners to palm trees and shot them, one by one, until they were all dead. Then the bodies were taken out to the sea and dumped over the side of the boat. Before Mr. Washburn is even finished, Mammy is sobbing, great wowing stops, as if trying to scoop out all of the sadness inside herself, so there will be room for other feelings. Lucinda sobs too, but in a distracted way. Watching Mommy afraid of such huge grief, none of us have ever seen before. Papito and Mundine dab at their eyes. My grandfather with his monogram handkerchief that reminds me of Papi's. Mundine with the back of his hand. But I don't cry, not right away. I listen carefully until the very end. I want to be with Papi and Tio Tony every step of the way. When Mr. Washburn is done, Mommy and Mundine and Lucinda and I stand up and put our arms around each other. Papito joins us, all of us crying into the empty space at the center of our family. Chapter 11, Snow Butterflies, pages 152 to 156. What is it going to look like? I asked my cousin Carla. It's hard to describe, Carla says. Just wait and see. We're staying with the Garcias in Queens until we find our own place nearby. Mami and Lucinda and Mundine are inside with the rest of the cousins and my aunts and uncles and grandparents, but Carla and her sisters are standing with me in the backyard in mittens and hats and coats, waiting for my first snow to fall. All day, the radio has been predicting a white Thanksgiving. The gray sky looks heavy and low, a piñata filled with snow. Carla has grown up a lot since last year when we were best friends back home. She wears her hair in a flip with a hairband instead of tucking it behind her ears and puts glossy stuff on her lips so they don't chap, she says. But it looks sort of like chapped lipstick. She speaks English so fast that sometimes I have to stop her and say por favor en español, which Tia Laura loves to hear, as she worries that the girls are forgetting their native language from having to speak only English in school. Usually it doesn't snow this early, Carla's saying. She talks as though she lived in the United States all her life. This is special, Anita. It brings good luck if it snows before Christmas, Yo adds. You're making that up. Carla cuts her eyes at the younger sister, and maybe Yo is inventing things again. But I think it's sweet how the Garcias are trying to make it up for me after that happened, what happened to Papi. Girls, Tia Laura calls from the kitchen window. She's open. We're almost ready to eat. It's el día del pavo, as my grandparents call it, the day of the turkey. But I know from going to the American school that its real name is Thanksgiving, the day the pilgrims in their black hats and capes gave thanks for surviving their first year in the United States. Some of my cousins have come down from the Bronx, and my grandparents came from the city on a train that goes under the ground. We're not all here because Tio Fran and his family are in Miami, and Tia Mimi has a boyfriend who's taking her over to meet his parents. But most of the rest of family is here. Usually Carla and her sisters have to help out, but today there are too many cooks in the broth, as Tia Laura says. Even I know that my aunt gets most of her sayings wrong in English. So we'd walk around the block, and I don't know how many times past the house where a cute boy in Carla's class lives. Carla's always falling in love and talking about getting married. Mommy says, and I agree, that Carla has become a little boy crazy in this country. But Carla claims that that's what happens when a girl gets to 7th grade. I hate to tell her, but it happened to me, insist. We moved in with the Garcias a couple of weeks ago after hearing the news. Right away, Mommy registered me at the Catholic school Carla and her sisters are attending. I was put back in 6th grade because I've missed most of it back home. But the principal, Sister Celeste, has promised that if I make progress, maybe I can be jumped onto Carla's grade by spring. I had hoped we've been long gone by then, but Mommy now says we're not going back, not for a long time, not till the wounds in our hearts have healed. I wonder how long that'll be, how I'll ever get over the emptiness left behind my papi. Mommy comes outside to tell us it's time to eat. She looks so sad and thin, wearing a black coat that belongs to Tia Laura that seems too big on her, even though she's the same size as my aunt, or used to be. Underneath the black coat is a black dress she's been wearing for weeks. She has little Fifi by the hand, who I guess was crying because she wanted to be outside with her 3 older sisters. Has it come yet? Mommy asks, looking up. Mommy has seen snow before when she traveled with Papi to the States one winter, but she's excited for me and keeps telling me about her first time. She and Papi scooped out bowls from the windowsill of their hotel and threw them at each other inside the room. Since this morning, she's been checking the sky as if there were turkey in the oven that might get overdone. But not a flake has fallen from the great mistiness above. I guess you better come in now, Mamita says. It might be a while, and you know how your mother gets. She eyes the Garcia girls. They know. Tia Laura worries just about as much here as she used to back home. We head inside, little Fifi running alongside her sisters. I'm trailing behind, but Mommy waits up for me, then puts her arm around my waist. We've become close again in the last few months of hoping and praying that things would come out all right. Now that they haven't, she holds on to me whenever she gets the chance, as she's afraid of losing me as well as everything else she's lost. How was your walk? She asks me. It was okay. I say so she doesn't worry. But what I can report about the umpteen time Carla has walked me by Kevin McLaughlin's house, hoping to catch a glimpse of him eating turkey inside. Hard to get used to everything so gray and dead, Mommy sighs, glancing up at the bird trees at the mention of death. I can feel her hand tighten on my waist. Your first American Thanksgiving, she says, trying to sound cheerful. As I follow her indoors, I see out of the corner of my eye a little flake of dust, and then another, but no, I think it couldn't be. I'm expecting lace doilies, like the ones my grandmother used to crochet before she had to leave her home behind and come to this country. In the dining room, the big table is set with extra leaves to accommodate all the grown-ups. It looks like a gathering of blackbirds, everyone wearing black. I sit with a La Juventud at the smaller table set up for the kids by the picture window. We thank you, Señor, for these gifts. Tio Carlos begins, but he chokes up. Mundin says that our uncle has been feeling bad, that he got out just in time, leaving my father and Tio Tony and others to bear the brunt of the dictator's son's wrath. Most of all, we thank you for bringing the family together. Our grandfather picks up, to mourn and to celebrate those who gave their lives for all of us. Amen. Fifi calls out when nobody says anything. She's learning how to pray, and every time she knows a word, she yells it out, loud and clear. Everyone bursts out laughing, some of us through our tears. Earlier today, Mrs. Washburn called Mommy to say we were all in her thoughts this Thanksgiving. She spoke to Mommy for a little bit, and then Mommy handed the phone to me. Hi, a familiar voice greeted me. I'm sorry about your dad, Sam said. My dad says he was a real hero. I didn't know what to say. Only stupid things came to mind, like, thank you for saying you're sorry that my father was killed. So, do you like New York, Anita? I told him that what I tell everyone who asks me. It's okay. Sammy used to brag that this was the greatest country on earth. I hope I wasn't offending him with my lackluster response. If you want to visit us, Mom says you and Lucinda and Mundine can come. By the way, Sam was hesitating as he moved through that sentence. I could tell his mother was coaching him on the other end. Carla was standing beside me, mouthing, "What?" I turned my face away so she'd stop. I had told her about Sammy, making him sound like an old boyfriend in order to keep up with my cousin's sophisticated life of seventh grade romance. Thanks, Sam, I said when he finished his invitation. Even though we'd outrun of each other, Sam was kind of my first love. So I added, we're getting our place soon. Mommy says when we do, I can have friends over if you want to come here. Wow, we could go to the Yankees game, Mom. he called out. Anita just invited me to go to New York to see Yogi Berra and Mickey Mantle play. I looked over at Carla, who was lifting her eyebrows and at me curiously. I shook my head, just so she'd know. No, I didn't want to grow up and marry Sam Washburn.